Drop it on the random.
What up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of That Time in Hip Hop, a podcast about the history and nostalgia, but more importantly, the preservation of hip hop music and culture. I am your host, Vegas of Hip Hop Now Podcast. With me, as always, the homie Tone from IntoTheDome.com. What's good, brother?
Hey, man, everything is good. Sipping a nice cold one, brother.
Oh, man, I haven't had one in a minute, man. I gotta chill. Like, my weight just been going up and down, bro. And it's not even a game, but I'm back in the gym full time. So in due time, I'll drop something. But if you're listening or watching for the very first time, like we said, this podcast is all about history and hip hop, whether that be music, whether that be artists, whether that be graffiti, movies, fashion, whatever it may be. It's all about preserving the culture, talking about it in depth, giving you some facts, giving you some, maybe rumors from the time or whatever the case may be. And the last episode we did was all about Jermaine Dupri and So Def, and basically how he put, ATL on the map when it came to hip hop music. So check that out in video form on YouTube. We go through his beginnings. We go through, his rise. We go through his more recent success. Everything is all appreciation of Jermaine Dupri and his contributions to hip hop and music in general. But if you like, I checked out the video. I like what y'all do, but I can't always watch. This podcast is also available in audio form, and you can go and visit any app. It doesn't matter if you got an iPhone, Android. All you got to do is go to your favorite podcast app and search for the words Hip Hop Now Podcast. And within that same stream of Hip Hop Now Podcast is That Time in Hip Hop. 2-for-1 deal, and we ain't charging y'all nothing for all this hip hop knowledge. I'm saying. But we're going to get into something we like to do called This Week in Hip Hop History. And in This Week in Hip Hop History, the date was July 8th, 1991. The Ghetto Boys released their album, We Can't Be Stopped. Definitely one of their dopest albums, but controversial cover probably really shocked a lot of people into listening to it, because they were, you saw the cover, you was like, what the hell is this? Because I know that was my reaction when my cousin had the CD. I was like, yo, what are you listening to? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is this, hospital music? But nevertheless, Ghetto Boys, Tone, 1991, We Can't Be Stopped. Ghetto Boys dropped the album. What did you think about the album, man?
Well, first, of course, I saw the video for, my mom's playing tricks on me, and I'm like, man, it's an incredible song. Like, I know they had music before that, and I'd heard Ghetto Boys' first few joints, but this was the one that took them to the apex of the South, Houston and Texas hip hop and everything like that, man. So it was just me hearing that song. First, it's the gift and the curse, because my expectations went through the roof, because I'm like, you can't have an album with 12 songs this potent on it. You know what I'm saying? So It's just one of them things where, it was a brilliant record. It's still to this day one of the probably top 10 rap songs. When you think about the impact, the influence, the creativity of it, it's on some gangster / mental health / I'm high or drunk, maybe. I don't know, but it's all of those things in one. And going back to the album, We Can't Be Stopped, the cover showing Bushwick Bill being rushed down the hospital hallway, and I do believe he had either one tried to commit suicide or he harmed himself. And they were trying to get him some help. And from what I remember hearing, that's an authentic picture. So it's kind of one of the things, like you said, it drew you to it. Like, let's hear what it's about. And when you think about the album, it's gangster / raunchy / it's a little bit of NWA, Two Live Crew, and all kind of stuff
Yeah.
smashed in one with songs like Quickie and songs like I'm Not a Gangster. Just I mean, it's a pretty interesting piece of work, man. Dope album, dope beats. I mean, Bushwick Bill did some production, Scarface did, Willie D did, Johnny C, I believe his name is, a few other people. So I mean, it was a landmark album for them. It's probably their biggest album in terms of notoriety because the single is just a legendary song. So it's a staple in the South, man. Dope album. I wasn't the biggest Ghetto Boys fan, even though I'm in North Carolina, so I guess this is the South. But I did like them. I love the single, and I love Scarface as one of the maybe top 10 MCs of all time. But at the time, I thought Ghetto Boys was dope. But I had another group that we'll talk about today that was on my radar all the time around 91. So I couldn't give but so much time to Ghetto Boys. But shout out to Ghetto Boys and rest in peace to Bushwick Bill also, man. Definitely a legend in the hip hop culture, man,
Yeah, man, definitely. I agree with you. Like with the Ghetto Boys, that Mine's Playing Tricks on Me. Like the first time I heard the song, I saw the video, and I didn't know what was going on. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I just knew it sound dope, but especially at that time, I wasn't paying that close attention to the lyrics. Certain parts of the lyrics I was. But then the video kind of gave you the visual, and then it made me pay more attention to what was being said. And Scarface is rhyming about his real life.
Right.
Like, a lot of people can look at that like, oh, he's being a poet, he's being a rapper, he's being a lyricist. Like, yes, but he's also talking about his real experiences with mental health.
Absolutely.
Or illnesses, I should say. And same thing like with the cover. Like that was what we were thinking back then. Also, the whole suicide attempt of Bushwick Bill. Now, before he passed, what was being said was that his girl tried to shoot him or stab him or whatever, and got him in the eye instead of the head or whatever the case may be. And that's why he had the eye. I think Scarface was telling the story of that album cover on an interview I saw. Because if you look at the album cover, Scarface is also walking with a cane, and something had happened to him. I can't really remember what he said, but again, like it was so many stories about that cover because you'd never seen a cover like that before, and people were debating whether it was real or fake. But what was dope about it was the music, like Tone said, man, you could easily assume gangster rap, but they were just so much more than that. They were gangster, they were conscious with their lyrics. In a lot of cases, they could be raunchy with their lyrics also, like you said, with songs like Quickie. So Ghetto Boys was like a real potent group when it came to the lyricism and the music and the concepts. So it's definitely a dope album that, if you've never heard it, you definitely should go back. Once you look at the cover, you're gonna be like, damn, he wasn't lying, man. Look at this. I'm gonna hit play on this joint. And also, like Tone said, man, rest in peace to Bushwick Bill. A staple in the hip hop game. You know what I'm saying? He did a lot more than just the Ghetto Boys. Just one of those dudes who was easily accepted in the game, providing that he was a little person, which, you don't see many of those, if at all, in hip hop. But he could rap, what I'm saying? And regardless of whatever you may hear about, such and such might have been right for him, whatever the case may be, there's a reason why we remember him and commemorate his career in hip hop and all the things he gave up, in his life to be a hip hop head and just keep pumping out music. So yeah, no doubt, rest in peace to Bushwick Bill. Now we get to the point in the program where we talk about the main topic at hand. And this is, this ain't like the last episode where we kind of went through somebody's career and all that good stuff to kind of show appreciation. This is more of what, when me and Tone came up with this concept for this show, was that time in hip hop. So Tone, tell them about the time in hip hop we about to get into right about now.
Oh man, Veg, that time in hip hop when Tribe Called Quest dropped their final album. And I'm gonna tell you, when an era ends, man, you have so many mixed emotions. You know, with me being a Tribe Called Quest fanatic from 1991 when People Instinctive Travels dropped up until we got it from here. Thank you for your service. It sounds like the ending when someone says thank you for your service. I don't know, man. It was a sad moment for me knowing that, hearing the rumors rather, that this was Tribe's final album and there will never be another Tribe Called Quest album again.
Mm.
Literally before the album, Fife Dog passes away. Q-Tip is forced to continue what they started because during the recording of this album, Fife was still getting dialysis. He was diabetic. He was still getting medical treatment. And they actually spent 4 months together recording this album. And they hadn't recorded together in 18 years since the Love Movement, was
Mm.
released. So, this was the end of an era, man. And again, we'll get into the particulars about the album, but just that moment when I found out, first, let me say, when I found out Tribe had a rumor started circulating that Tribe had a new album,
Yeah.
I got excited. Man, at the time, Fife was still alive. And you're thinking, like, oh, so Q-Tip and Fife, they kind of like settled some differences because, several years ago, me watching the Beats, Rhymes, and Life, documentary, I'm like, they're done, man. Like, there's no more Tribe Called Quest. And that was a happy and sad documentary, So I'm like, well, when I heard those rumors about this final Tribe album, man, I was like, okay, well, wow, is it going to really happen? Because you had heard some rumors around 2013, when Tribe got back together for the first time in years to tour with Kanye, I believe. I think they was on the Yeezus tour.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
got on there because Kanye and Pharrell and them guys are huge Tribe fans. So, Kanye wanted Tribe to rock with them. So they traveled with Yale and their Yeezus joined, and they got back together. And that was a rumor started around that time, started circulating that one night they were on tour that Paris terrorist attack happened. You know what I mean? And they the rumor was they talked at that moment, say, you know what, life is short. Let's I know we're touring, but let's get back in the studio. And that's when they really started back getting in the mode of spending time together so it'll be organic and you can kind of hear, the back and forth Q-Tip and Fife that we remember back in the day. You heard that on the final album. We didn't get that on Beats, Rhymes, and Life or the Love Movement, but you kind of get that feel this time because I think it was they had patched their relationship up and they started recording, man. But that time when I remember it dropping, I was excited, but I was also sad when it finished because Fife had passed away. So before I get into more particulars, man, how did you feel when you first heard about Tribe having a final album? Because we knew it was probably the final one, and just your thoughts during that time period of 2016.
I was a little I wasn't as excited only because I had heard it so many times like throughout the years, where it felt like it was gonna happen, like you said, when they was on that tour. Like it really felt like it was gonna happen back then. And it didn't. So it was hard for me to get excited. Like it was difficult because it was kind of like, man, it's been way too long. I don't know what they're going to sound like. I don't know what the album's going to sound like. I don't even know if I want it anymore. But as things got closer and you started hearing more rumors, like when L.A. Reid spilled the beans early, and then when Fife passed and Q-Tip really started to lay it out, and I'm like, well, they wouldn't tease something like this knowing Fife passed, without making it happen, and I just remember it was like building in me. Excitement was building in me. And I guess it was because within Q-Tip, I could hear, knowing he the maestro, I could hear a certain level of confidence that let me know we wasn't going to get any, album that's being smashed together just to call it a Tribe album because now Fife is gone. It felt like, oh no, this is the album we was basically going to get whether Fife was here or not.
Right.
So like that time when it finally came out, wasn't the biggest fan of the cover, but really didn't care because Tribe covers are really kind of a mixed bag anyway, and they're kind of connected in some ways and colors. Except for even the Love Below, even though there wasn't color there, it was still some of that artwork around. But I was ecstatic, man. And I think I was more happy because it didn't seem like it was me or a circle of friends I know that like Tribe or a certain type of hip hop fan that was excited. It seemed like that's all everybody was talking about on different social media platforms. It seemed like everybody wanted the Tribe album on news stations, everything. So I was ecstatic when it was coming out and all that good stuff. But what did you think? All right, so we know the album comes out, right? For one, what did you think of the album when you first heard it, and what did you think about what they did with the album to still, obviously have Fife on a lot of records, which he recorded, but to kind of incorporate Busta Rhymes and Jerobi and Consequence more into the music to kind of fill out, I guess, the blank spaces that may have been left by Fife?
You know what? I think Q-Tip was brilliant in one thing. He brought us, the fans, full circle again. This new Tribe album, last Tribe album rather, it gave you the feel of People Instinctive Travels. Like if you listen to the way the samples and the beat are on quite a few songs, I noticed that immediately. I went to the record store, bought this album, got in my car, sat there, opened it up like I used to in the 90s, and read the back of it and read everything I could because I really wanted to get this feel of my favorite group, which Tribe Called Quest is my favorite group. So I sat in my car and I read the joints and I put it in. And when I first heard the Space Program, like track number 1, it reminded me immediately of People Instinctive Travels. It had the vibe to it. Also, Whatever It'll Be and This Generation, those other 2 songs, it reminded me, it had the feel of the People Instinctive Travels, man. So I felt good about that because it had that vibe. In terms of Busta Rhymes, real quick, Busta's always been kind of like the other member of Tribe Called Quest, kind of like Redman is like the other unsung member of the Wu-Tang Clan. You know what I'm saying? Like they have that relationship. So with Leaders New School and Daylight and all the Native Tongues, they all a family in a way. But Busta, you remember when he was on Scenario, even Dr. Dre said back then, that's your star right there. You know what I'm saying? So Busta had the opportunity to become a star because, Tribe Called Quest put him on Scenario, which is one of the biggest songs in rap history in terms of like the artistic and staying power. So Busta being on the final album was necessary. It made sense. It didn't seem forced. Even when you saw him on We the People video with Consequence and Q-Tip and Ali, Shaheed Muhammad, it felt like he belonged there. So him being sprinkled in the album made sense. Consequence being family to theirs and being a big, as far as like artists on the Beats, Rhymes, and Life, as far as being very involved and stressed out and probably 5-6 other songs, it made sense for him to kind of fill in Fife, passing away right before the album was completed. Kind of like when Mobb Deep go on tour right now and Big Noah fills in for Prodigy. You know what I'm saying? Like it's meant to be. It's meant to be. So Consequence, like him or not, because of his relationship with Tribe and his contribution to Beats, Rhymes, and Life, it was meant to be for him to be on We Got It From Here. So Jerobi, another is for a situation where we always, wanted to hear Jerobi, with the Tribe. We know that on the documentary, Beats, Rhymes, and Life, Q-Tip always said Jerobi was the spirit of the Tribe. You know what I'm saying? And that was more or less the energy and the vibe. If you look back on Check the Rhyme video and all that, he's in the back with the hair pop. he just got that energy and the vibe. He kind of gave you that feel, and so they always had that respect for Jerome. But he left early, after the first album and went to DC and became a chef and restaurant, and he did his own thing. But he always came back for tours. He would always help Fife out with, Fife health being up and down. He would always rock with Fife and always kind of encourage him and be there for him. So, Jerobi being on here was also necessary to finish what Fife had started before he passed away. That's the track, The Killing Season. I enjoyed Jerobi on that track and Consequence on that track. That's my second favorite song probably on the album. Kanye does the hook and Talib Kweli does a rhyme at the beginning. But again, Jerobi and Consequence rhymed on it and Q-Tip didn't. You know what I'm saying? I thought it was a dope song. So all of them involved kind of gave you the finale of the Tribe Called Quest experience. So I wasn't mad at that. The album got high reviews, and we'll get into some of the particulars, during the show. But initially, it felt like a older Tribe album. If you like beats rhymes, not beats rhymes. If you like People Instinctive Travels, I think that you would appreciate what Q-Tip was trying to do with this album. That's hard to do. It's hard to go back, almost 30 years or what, almost, and capture that feeling. But I thought he did as well as he could. I enjoyed the album. I liked it more as I listened to it, because at first initial, you wanted to be Midnight Marauders right now, low in theater right now. And so I was like, I like it, but I don't know. But then as time went on, I put it away and I pulled it back out 6 months later at some point. I was like, you know what? I'm riding to it and it feels right. Mm-hmm. What were your thoughts, man?
Yeah, man. Like the point you made also about like having the inclusion of Busta Rhymes and Consequence and Jerobi on the mic. It felt natural, and I think that really hit home for me when they performed on Saturday Night Live when Dave Chappelle was hosted, because it felt right. First of all, it felt like Chappelle's show was back for a second, even though it was Saturday Night Live. To have Tribe on there and to see it didn't feel like, oh man, Fife ain't here. This ain't the same. When I first heard the album, I dug it because, again, my anticipation was kind of all over the place. Like, I didn't know what we was going to get, because I'm not the biggest fan of artists constantly making the same music, because after a while, I'll just mess with the stuff that I like. But they have been gone for so long. I'm like, my thought was they need to capture the essence of what Tribe is sonically, as far as the beats go, but upgrade it a little bit so it don't sound dated. And I think that's what they did. Like you said, there's a lot of different sounds and samples and tracks on there that remind you of Low End Theory, that remind you of People's Instinctive, remind you of Midnight Marauders, even some beats, rhymes, and lives. The sound is in line with what you're used to hearing with Tribe. And I think I like what Q-Tip did in a couple of cases where you could tell maybe he had a verse only from Fife, and he would do things like with effects and where he would place those vocals, and sometimes he would say the words with him, and it didn't feel unnatural because, like you said, this is a Tribe. They go back and forth. They say stuff together. They're a duo. So if it didn't feel like he was covering up holes, it kind of felt like they meant to do it that way. And I thought that was excellent. I really enjoyed the album. Probably the second listen, because I wasn't listening to see if everything was hot or whack. You know what I'm saying? I think maybe there's one record that I skip on there, and that's probably the joint with Talib Kweli, because like I like Talib Kweli, but he just doesn't work on it on every track or every appearance he makes. But like also for them to have, newer artists on there like Kendrick and have them fit, not sound like they don't belong with Tribe on the record. You know what I'm saying? I just thought it was dope. I thought it was a perfect last album for them. Like I wouldn't want, I wish he was still here, but even if Fife was here or not, I wouldn't want any more after that because I felt like this was kind of okay. The last thing we gave y'all was The Love Below. A lot of people felt like that wasn't really a Tribe album and it wasn't that great.
The Love Movement.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, the Love Movement. Love Below is another group that's dope. But I feel like, it was the perfect way to close the chapter on a legendary group and also remind people, because it's one thing to look back and say, yo, man, remember, like here's a prime example for me personally. I was a huge EPMD fan, like huge. Like I thought like they have, to me, if you had to ask me back, especially back then, they had 4 straight classics. That's how I would feel. But once they broke up, something happened. Music changed, blah, blah, blah. And when they came back, it wasn't the same for me. You know what I'm saying? It was almost like the beats were still dope, but something wasn't upgraded about them. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like they were stuck in time from when they broke up and last made their album. Whereas with this Tribe joint, they fit right into pocket, and it was what year was that? 2016?
Right.
Like they fit right into pocket with the sound of today and the fact that they had this momentum going. So it just was dope, man. Now, what do you think about, like the fact that, and this was mentioned at one point, but I think the Grammy situation kind of killed it. What do you think about the fact that, they performed at the Grammys when the album came out? It was on this Dave Chappelle thing. They had the videos. They had basically everybody was loving Tribe. You was just seeing Tribe everywhere. Next year comes, they're eligible for the Grammys, and they don't even get nominated. Q-Tip throws a fit, makes a video in the kitchen while they cooking or whatever online, and has a huge problem with it. Now, when you saw this, did you think they deserved a Grammy nomination for that album? And 2, did you think, Q-Tip had the right to be upset?
You know what? First, I'm going to say Q-Tip did have the right to be upset because Q-Tip looking at it like, okay, they've had best rap songs and rap albums for decades now, and when can we get our props for what we've done for hip hop, and this is our final go around. Fife is going, this is our last album. Q-Tip probably felt like he put a amazing album together. A lot of people feel the same way. All Music gave it 4.5 stars. Rolling Stone gave it like 4 stars, and it got like a 91 on the metric, whatever. So I mean, so all of these professional critics are basically calling it, you giving it universal acclaim. Q-Tip probably feels the same way. He's looking at it like, okay, I've dealt with the politics of the Grammys all of these years. And this is one of the reasons why, if you think about that video, when he's in the kitchen, he's kind of ranting and stuff like that. He said, Ninth, what's up? And he's talking about Ninth Wonder. You know what I'm saying? Because one rumor was Ninth was on this Grammy board. He said it was like, me and you politic about a lot of stuff. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. They had a private conversation. Also, while they were eligible for the Grammy, all of a sudden, Rhapsody's Layla's Wisdom get a Grammy nomination. In life, it doesn't take Einstein to know 2 + 2 is 4. You know what I'm saying? And Knife does have influence now in hip hop. I think he was on that Grammy board. I know Knife also has something to do with the hip hop at the African American Museum and all this stuff like that. So he's put himself in a influential position. He did the fellowship at Harvard for with the Dr. Gates, I believe, and all of this stuff. And so does Knife have some influence with the Grammy board on the hip hop side? Yes, he does. Do I feel like, and again, you guys that know me know, yes, I grew up with him, but I'm talking reality right now. Do I think that he used his influence for his record label, Jamla Records, here in North Carolina, and his #1 artist, Rhapsody? Yes. If he ever sees this video, I don't know what he would say, but inside I'm sure he would agree. that politics is politics, and he finally had a chance because they always talked about just the politics of the game and how they want to stay away from it at some point. But then you part of the beast now. You know what I'm saying? So if you're gonna be part of the beast, you must eat. You know what I'm saying? So he fed Rats and helped push her. And I think that Q-Tip was trying to say in a roundabout way, yeah, I feel you, dude, and I ain't hating on nobody, but come on, dog. I'll join this doper. That's basically what Q-Tip was saying. And I know that you had influence on, and again, I'll just say this. I think that Q-Tip had a reason to feel a certain way. I felt like because of the universal acclaim that these about 8 or 9 professional reviewers did, it should have gotten a Grammy nomination. You know what I'm saying? Because the reality is those professional reviewers, they're very hard on hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And when this universal acclaim happens, that speaks volumes. You know what I mean? And I think they deserve, if nothing else, because of what it was to the reviewers, it should have got a nod, man. And he had a reason to be upset. Again, everything is political. I think him feeling like, man, y'all gonna shun us out of our last effort. Those were real feelings from Q-Tip. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't just on some old, I just want a trend on Twitter. That ain't how Q-Tip is. You know what I'm saying? If you look at the emotion from Q, that's how he is. You know what I'm saying? In terms of him being upset, that wasn't for, I just want to have my name on Twitter. He don't care about that. You know what I'm saying? He was generally mad because he had conversations with Ninth and other people who had influence on the hip hop part of the Grammys, and he didn't think it was gonna go the way it went.
Yeah,
that's just real talk, man. But again, man, even with him being upset, hopefully somewhere inside he's still proud of what he did for hip hop and has done for hip hop, and what he did for Tribe. I think he did them justice on this final album, Grammy or not. You know what I'm saying? And it's like Chuck D said, F for Grammy. You know what I'm saying? That's what he said back in 1990. You know what I'm saying? So, hopefully, Q-Tip got in his feelings. But, man, Tribe Called Quest will never be, you know what I'm saying, judged by popular award shows. You know what I'm saying? Nas never won a Grammy. You know what I'm saying? So the pure artists, a lot of them, KRS-One, Rakim, none of them won Grammys, man. You know what I'm saying? So it's okay, but when you're an artist, getting recognition is important, man. And for this to be the last effort of a legendary grouping in our culture of hip hop, you know what I'm saying? It warranted a nod, but I get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way, like when, because I was kind of shocked that Q-Tip was, not that he was upset, but that, he chose to do like a video and all of that.
Yeah.
For it. And I get it, because my first thought was the politics. You know what I'm saying? That, because especially when I saw the albums that was nominated.
Right.
But I think what was probably more frustrating for Q-Tip was the fact that he was probably politicking to get the Grammy nod. But then there was also this organic force and hype behind the group's album. So it was kind of like, well, I don't even really have to politic like that, because when we were coming out, we were everywhere. We were all over social media. We were on doing shows. We did a Grammy performance.
Right.
Like, we had momentum that suggests somebody needs to commemorate what we did last year.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And I get it. Like, that's when you look at the Grammys nominations in recent years, they try to walk the line between what sold the most, what's most popular, and what true hip hop fans would want to see nominated. And, usually what sold the most and what's popular is the thing that wins. And seldomly, like Chance the Rapper, do you get something where it's like shocks you, like, oh, word, that one, a mixtape one? But I think also Q-Tip was probably upset because De La Soul just got a nomination for an album that most De La fans don't even like.
I mean, come on.
Like, so it's crazy when you think about it, but like Tone said, man, it was some politics in there.
And you know what too? I
Yeah.
remember on IG when Busta Rhymes said that Rhapsody's Layla Wisdom was one of the best rap albums he heard in 10 years. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So yeah, he said that. Now he also is on a track on that album, you
Oh,
know, and the unreleased Busta Rhymes album, some of it is produced by Ninth One and the Soul Council. You know
oh
what I'm
wow.
saying? So the Q-Tip hears some of this and feel like, yo, I mean, what's really good? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So you gotta understand the politics with that, man, and how somebody would feel when it's like these are people you connected with, and you feel like you kind of got shunned a little bit, man. So, I just thought I'd put that out there real quick.
Yeah. And look, like you said, man, it don't make me like the album any better or worse.
Man,
It don't take nothing away from a Tribe Called Quest being one of the greatest hip hop groups of all time. A lot of people's favorite groups of all time. Their impact is their impact. Like, it is what it is, and I think a lot of fans know that. I think a lot of fans treat the Grammys like we treat boxing. You know, when you see that whack decision, real boxing fans don't get that upset.
Not really.
We're used to it. You know what I'm saying? We know, like, there's promoters, there ain't no association, so people going to get robbed and it's going to be blatant. So it's the same thing with the Grammys. I never come into it expecting, all right, here's my top 5, they better be on this list. I just think that, it was unfortunate because I think in this case, providing the marketing they did for the album, the momentum they had with the album, how they graced the stage of the Grammys during that momentum, and how it was just the talk of everywhere in social media, like everywhere, in places I didn't even think Tribe was that big in as far as like media. But you got to think about the fact that some people grew up with them and they happen to work in different parts of the the world. So you got Tribe fans all across the world. But I think with all of that, it felt like somebody should have acknowledged a Tribe Called Quest. Like, you know what I'm saying? And the album wasn't trash to most people, but it is what it is, man. So, Tone, this the final album, so we think, or we just going to say, for a Tribe Called Quest, looking at their complete catalog, where do you put them in hip hop? Does this album add to what they have, or even if we never got this album, would you still have them ranked at the same position or a high position?
Okay, without being biased, because again, and I think I've said this in earlier shows, that growing up, Run DMC was my favorite rap group. It went from Run DMC to EPMD became my favorite rap group, and then I heard Bonita, and I said, "Who was that?" And then Tribe ended up being my favorite rap group. So I always have Tribe in the top 5 rap groups of all time with the groups I just said. You got Outkast in there, and Wu-Tang maybe, something like that. So to me, their position is their position. Top 5 all time. You can put them wherever you want to put them at. 1 through 5, no less than 5. When you drop the Low End Theory and the Midnight Marauders back to back, you'd be hard pressed to see anyone who's able to do that. Maybe EPMD did it. Maybe Run DMC did it with the self-titled album, then King of Rock. Maybe maybe Outkast did it with ATLs and Aquemini. Maybe it hasn't happened much. So I think their place is their place. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think this album can move that place because they're already in the top 5. You know what I'm saying? So this would have had to been the Midnight Marauders to move them up higher to me. You know what I'm saying? But this wasn't the Midnight Marauders, but this was dope. This was, right there on the level of the People Instinctive Travels and Beats Rhymes of Life for me. Just like I said to Kill, shout out to Kill Apartment 5B. I said on the show that time that I thought the Beats Rhymes of Life album was dope, and it is dope to me. Nobody can tell me different. I think this album is a combination of Beats Rhymes of Life feel / the People Instinctive Travel feel. So it's solid. it's somewhere in the middle of their discography. I don't think it moves anything because I think they're where they are, in the pantheon of legendary rap groups, So this didn't have an award tour or Bonita or Check the Rhyme, something like that on there. I mean, We the People was kind of like Find a Way. You know what I'm saying? It's the
Yeah.
second tier dope single, but it's not the scenario. You know what I'm saying? So even though it was a dope video, dope song, it'll be remembered as the dope part, a dope single for the album, but we're not hearing that album like right now. You hear old school say they play a world tour, 20 some years later. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That's just what they do. They play Check the Round 20 some years later. They're not gonna play We the People the same way they play those, so it can't elevate them, but it doesn't take them down either. It just leaves them where they are with a dope effort by Q-Tip. He did the best he could, to me, given the circumstances, given they hadn't dropped an album in 18 years, which is amazing that they're able to come back and still put out something that was critically acclaimed. So yeah, I ain't mad at it, man. They are where they are. Nothing happens, nothing moves. We just get the chance to have another album, the final album in our little Tribe Called Quest collection, man. For the ages, man. What about you?
For me, I think it kind of cemented a legacy that was somewhat already cemented. Like you said, man, those first 3 albums really like cemented them as one of the best groups ever. I also enjoy Beats, Rhymes, and Life. Obviously, there's some records on there I don't like. I didn't like the fact that the whole Q-Tip and Fife thing was really shaky and basically scarce on that album. But I still enjoyed a lot of the records on the album. So really, when I line up all their catalog, the Love Movement is the only one I don't like. And, that's saying a lot when there are groups who have albums in their catalog where, you might think maybe the first one was dope and another one, and that's it. So I like when this album came out, man, I really felt like this was closure for me. You know what I'm saying? Like the Love Movement was like, it can't end like this. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
This was closure for me. This felt like Tribe. This felt upgraded. Fife was there. It was like you said, it was like it was coming full circle. Consequence was there. I liked them more on this than I liked them on Beats, Rhymes, and Life. Okay. And Busta was there, and Busta, like you said, was kind of like what Redman is to Wu-Tang, like this honorary member of the group, and he didn't overwhelm the album. He fit right in, and to have Jerobi also give up a performance that I was pretty shocked by. That I was like, I'm feeling these Jerobi verses.
Yeah, he did a good job.
Yeah, he did a really good job. So I walked away satisfied, and I feel like it basically closed the book to me on a group that, regardless of whatever Grammy or whatever the award may be, they will be remembered in hip hop history when we finally get this museum popping. And they need a big spread in there because it's Tribe Called Quest, man. Like Tone said, man, you're gonna hear Check the Rhyme for years to come on the radio. It just is. But Tone, real quick, before we move away from that, maybe give us like 3 of the songs you like off of the album.
Yeah, man. Like I said initially on the show today, we started is the Space Program, man. I thought it was a dope way start the album off. It felt just like a People Instinctive Travel song. So the Space Program joint. We the People is just dope because Fife got off on We the People, man. You know what I'm saying? And when you see the video, when they had Fife verse going and Busta was just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? It seems so authentic, man, because it was that classic Fife dog, just give you something raw, you know what I'm saying? So Space Program, We the People. Unlike you, I think you said you didn't like what Talib Kweli was on. So unlike you, The Killing Season is one of my favorite songs on there. I love what Consequence and Jerobi was spitting on that song, man. It was kind of there's a conscious dope joint, kind of like on some societal what's happening right now out in the streets, man. Like that killing season, man. Like that song is popping to me, man. Like lyrically, you know what I'm saying? This generation was considered their second single. I thought that was a dope song, and it had an old Try Feel Again. I think YouTube was reaching for that, and I think he found it.
Yeah.
So those would be like the 4 songs right there that I really like. Of course, there were other appearances on there. Elton John was on there. Anderson .Paak was on there. Andre 3000 was on there. Like you said, K-Dot was on there. I think with all of those people on there, it still gave it a fresh feel, man. But those are the songs that come to mind for me. What about you?
For me, it's basically some of the same ones. We the People, the Space Program. Yeah. I really dig the joint Kids. I like that record a lot. And I like Conrad Tokyo. I like just one more. I like the Donald. Just like even the titles and the concepts of the songs and how they play out, and the dedications to Fife without feeling like the traditional dedication song. It just felt right, you know what I'm saying, as an album. And I think one point that I wanted to point out about this album that made it unique in their catalog and what made it relevant for the time was that Tribe wasn't stuck in a time warp, you know, with the music. The lyrics were a little bit more on the conscious side, were a little bit more reflective of what the game and society was. You know what I'm saying? Black Lives Matter had happened. The Colin Kaepernick thing had happened. And they didn't go so far into the conscious area that you felt like you wasn't listening to Tribe. It just sounded like Tribe was using their powers as a legendary hip-hop group to speak on things that, you know, some new artists refuse to do so. And do it in a way that sounds familiar to us that we would enjoy. So those are a couple of my favorites. And, you know, definitely, again, like we said, without a Grammy, Tribe Called Quest is still one of the greatest hip-hop groups of all time. What did you think about the album, Tribe's last album? What did you think when it came out, when it dropped? Do you even like the album? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Let us know. We definitely, you know, read all the comments and definitely reply to any comments on the page because it's interesting. It's a conversation for all of us to talk about and even debate about, whatever the case may be. But now we're going to get into the part of the show where we recommend to you something you should go back and listen to. And for me this week, it's 1994 Artifacts, and it's called Between a Rock and a Hard Place. It's their debut album. You know, they had Come On, Get Down with the Get Down, but everybody tends to really remember Wrong Side of the Tracks. 1994, man. Now, the thing that I really love about this album, and there was a point in time where I hadn't heard the album in years because I had it on cassette, used to play it all the time back then, you know, and went off to college and, you know, you listen to certain things, you don't listen to certain things. And I think in like a couple of years ago, you know, I digitized it and added it to my collection. I was just one day driving to work, just listening to the whole album. And I was like, damn, you know what? When you talk about jazz samples and hip hop albums that kind of got defined by those jazz samples, like Into the Stage, like Tribe Called Quest, Low End Theory, like Gangstar, like Diggable Planets, the Artifacts had a lot of jazz samples on here. And surprisingly, and it plays so well with their wordplay and their lyrics. A dude by the name of Reggie Noble also did some production on here, Redman. But just a very dope, nostalgic for those who were around back then, and probably one of those albums that I always tell a young cat, there's just certain albums that just scream early 90s hip hop or mid 90s hip hop or whatever. When you hear them, this is definitely one of them. It just sounds dirty and grimy and wordplay, and it's a really dope album. So you should definitely check it out. Tone, what did you think about Artifact's debut album, Between a Rock and a Hard Place, and what's your recommendation for this week?
Man, I can't articulate it any better than you did when it comes to the Artifacts, man. I actually agree 100%. It was just gritty but jazzy. You know, they were underrated MCs, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Nice verses, man, you know, and obviously Wrong Side of the Tracks is just right now, if you play that at any club where, you know, the patrons are, you know, 35 to 45 or and older, you'll see the same look on the face. The beat is the same thing because it's like it's just so grimy and just it's so hip hop, if that makes sense, man. You know what I mean? And it feels like 1994. It feels like it's cold outside and I got my bubble goose and my Tim's on. It feels like that. You know what I'm saying? So again, man, I still go occasionally every now and then on YouTube and throw in Wrong Side of the Tracks just for that nostalgia, man. To be honest with you, it reminds me of a dude named King Just had this song No Flow on the Rodeo. It just it makes me it takes me there. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's that early 90s, man. And speaking of 90s, my recommendation is a young dude named Jamal. His debut album, Last Chance, No Breaks. Jamal used to be with a group called Illegal. And Malik is the other kid that was in Illegal, ended up doing some stuff with Death Row. He went to the West at some point. But yeah, Illegal, I think initially was with Dallas Austin, man, and turned him over to Eric Sermon, did some work with him, and they had that joint We Gets Busy, you know what I'm saying? And they were dope, you know what I'm saying? So when I heard about Jamal and then I heard the single Fade 'Em All, I was like, oh, this kid kind of sound like young Redman.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and then of course Redman, he was down with E Double and all of them, and Redman produced some stuff on this album, and Eric Sermon did, Easy Mo B did. I mean, just gritty production. Rock Wilder. I mean, it's a hard album, people. You know what I'm saying? Last Chance, No Breaks by Jamal. Fade 'Em All was the first single, and then Pete Rock did a Fade 'Em All remix that still bangs to this day. You know what I'm saying? Then his second single was a joint called Keep It Real. Had this Stevie Wonder sample, man, and just, oh, man. I mean, the production, he was gritty, man. Like, he started the album off, let me see, what's that song, man? Long as I'm alive, I'ma live illegal. That's how the album started off. And his first verse, he came right in banging. Like anyone who hasn't heard this, but you like gritty hip hop, go on YouTube and put it in and just listen to how that first beat and that first verse start off. And you know, he had the hunger. You know what I'm saying? And that kid could really, really go. And that was the era with a lot of the younger guys. It wasn't really bubblegum like some of the younger guys now, which I'm not hating. That's the generation. But back then, with the Jamals and, you know, and Shaheen's and A+, these kids could rap. You know what I'm saying? And they were trying to mimic their older peers. I mean, not peers, the older MCs who influenced them. So, yeah, he went hard, man. He had songs where he went back and forth with Redman on it, while Redman was in his prime in 95.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man, check that out, man. Vay, you remember that album and Jamal like that, man?
Yeah, I remember because I remember when Illegal album dropped, and I had the cassette because, you know, it was one of those things where it was like, you know, you hear groups like the Youngsters and all of that before, and what's the other the group that Dallas Austin had? Or am I thinking? No, I'm thinking about Another Bad Creation.
Yeah, ABC.
Yeah, had all those, you know, all those groups or whatever back then, and Illegal was more of my speed. Like, you know, when I heard that, I was just like, oh, and they got Eric Sermon on production, and they rapping for real. It wasn't like, you know, kiddie stuff like we talked about Crisscross, because everything was when you had kids in rap. There was this sect that felt like it had to be like the hip hop Jackson 5 version, you know, cute, they could rap, it's catchy, you like the way they dress, stuff like that. Illegal was like they were cursing, like
it was raw.
I was mad dirty, like
it was like 14.
Yeah, and when I saw that, I was like, oh, I need that. You know what I'm saying? But I remember, you know, when they said they was going to break off, and I was a big fan of Malik, so I was looking more forward to his music. But when I heard Jamal with Def Squad and that production, and what's with the keep it real, I think it's the remix that Eric Sermon did, because he released like a beat CD or instrumental album not too long ago that had the beat to it. That record, man, a couple years ago, I just bought that record because it's just, again, it's like Artifacts, man. It just takes you to a time where hip hop was competitive with the lyricism. Everything, you know, it was hardcore lyrics, but sometimes the beats were just smooth, and somehow they were able to mix those kind of hardcore lyrics with some of these jazzy sounding beats and piano samples and stuff like that. So yeah, man, you know, that's an album I never heard in its entirety. So I'm definitely gonna go back and listen to that, because
please do.
It's, you know, back then you had to buy it or you knew somebody with it.
Yeah.
So it didn't happen for me, but now we live in a different age where I could just go to any streaming service and listen to somebody's entire catalog. So, but definitely, I agree. I know all the production that's on there, so I'm pretty sure it's going to be a dope listen.
Yeah.
So for you watching or listening right now, there you go. There's 2 albums, 2 artists. You can go back, Jamal and Artifacts. Check out those albums. Let us know what you think about those albums when they came out, or if you revisit them, whatever the case may be. But that's going to do it for us. Please know that this podcast is not only available in video form right here on YouTube. All you got to do is search the B-Roll Network. That's BROLE Network. Or you can visit intothedome.com, and there you will see not only the video links, but the audio links. And you can check out dope articles about some of the artists we talk about, as well as other articles relating to music and other genres of music on intothedome.com. You can also check me out on Hip Hop Now Podcast. But the best thing you can do is share this kind of content with people you know enjoy it, other hip hop heads, people who are curious about hip hop. We here to serve the cause, to people, whatever the case may be. So keep sharing, keep subscribing, keep commenting, and keep hitting that like button. On behalf of myself, Vegas of Hip Hop Now Podcast, and the homie Tone of intothedome.com, go out and support real hip hop. Peace.
Peace.
Drop it on the random.